Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to another episode of Lunch Guide. My name is Chef Andy, and today I have something interesting for you. Remember, on this particular January segment, we're going to be working on some dishes that are both budget friendly and easy for you and your family to actually be able to do in this particular time of the year. Remember, we are focusing on budget-friendly recipes because of the fact that it is the beginning part of the year, a lot of economic strains for you and your family. So we are basically now bringing some very simple options to your table and give you some beautiful options you can work with. So without further ado, I'm going to start off by introducing the ingredients I'll be working with today. So from my closest end here, I've got some beef cubes, some tomato paste, and some butter. I also have some finely chopped carrot there, a bit of salt, and 1 sprig of rosemary. In the black plate here, I also have some beautifully cut mutton. I also have some red and white onion and a bit of garlic, a bit of parsley, some blanched peas, a bit of tomatoes there, a bit of some fresh coriander there, some 2 potatoes, and last but not least, a bit of some virgin olive oil. So without further ado, we're going to slide into a short commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how to turn these very simple ingredients into something you will love for you and your family. So see you after a short while. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are just catching up, remember, for those of you who are just catching up, we are going to be working on a very simple dish, as I mentioned in the intro. And first off, I will start with my beautifully cut up mutton. So I'm particularly using a very beautiful cut. I'm using part of the leg. So this is particularly very good for stewing, also very good for braising, and also very good for frying. But for this, I'm actually going to be making this, I'm going to be turning this into a stew. So first off, we're going to start by just heating up our pan. And I will also just grab some onions. So I'm going to be working with half a red onion and half a white onion. So start off by just peeling those really quickly. Right, next up, we're just going to chop this up really quickly. So I'm just going to take both the edges off. And what we're looking for is basically some beautiful half moons. Right, and we will do the same for the white onion. Right, simple stuff. So we will start off by adding our onions to the pan with a bit of oil. So what you want to do is fry your onions until they're just translucent and they start to colorize. Right, once you get to that step, you will now require your tomato. So we're just gonna first of all cut that into quarters and then into some small chunks. Right, and we'll just add that into our pot. And all you want to do now is just continue mixing through. Right, so simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do now is I'm also going to get another pan going. And basically in the smaller pan, we're basically going to start off by browning our mutton. So with the onion mixture, we're just going to allow that to continue for a few minutes. And in the other pan, I'm just going to add now about a tablespoon of some oil. And just give that a bit of time to heat up. Right, so simple as that. And what you want to do now is just rest your onion and tomatoes on the side. So I'm just going to pull those out and just allow them to cool off slightly. Right, so in the meantime, we're going to start off by getting our pan hot, and it's now nice and smoky. And what you're going to do next is just add our mutton. And what you want to do at this stage is you just want to continue mixing through. Alright, so basically at this stage you want to continue mixing that and cooking it at high heat. And basically we will continue to do so just until the meat is fully browned. And to that we'll also be adding about 2 garlic cloves. I'm just going to quickly roughly chop just 2 pieces of garlic clove. And we'll add that to our mutton. Basically, we're just going to continue cooking that and mixing through until the meat is nicely browned. And we're basically now going to come in later on and incorporate our tomatoes and our onion mixture. Right, so I'm basically going to cover that and allow it to continue for about 2 to 3 minutes. But in the meantime, remember, we're also going to be making some jacket potatoes, so I'm quickly going to show you how to do that. So for that, you will just probably grab a bowl, and we'll start off by melting our butter. So I'm using unsalted butter. I'm just going to melt that for about 30 seconds. And while that continues, I'm going to grab some fresh parsley. And basically what you want to do now is just chop it really finely. And we will add that to our bowl. Right, so simple as that. Clean a bit of that mess. And now all we're going to do now is add our butter to our parsley and just mix that through. And to that we'll incorporate just a bit of salt for seasoning and a bit of black pepper. So I'm using some freshly grounded black peppercorns for this particular recipe, but you can actually substitute it with some black pepper powder. It will still give you the same results. Right, so we're just going to allow that to just infuse for a few seconds, and I'll bring your attention back to the sides. Right, so at this stage your meat is now just nicely juicy. It's actually now starting to really give a bit of color. And basically what you want to do at that particular stage is now incorporate the rest of the ingredients that are going to be going into your stew. So I'll start off with the onion and tomato mixture. Just mix that through thoroughly. Right, very simple. And now to that, we're just going to finish off with some of the condiments we had. So I had a bit of some chopped carrots. And then we're also going to add about 1.5 teaspoons of some tomato paste. Right, so mix that thoroughly. Right, so basically what you want to do at this particular stage is add just a little bit of water, which will actually aid you in cooking your tomatoes, cooking your tomatoes and your onions, and just really giving it a nice gravy finish. So I'm just going to add 1 cup of water, and to that I will add 1.5 cubes of beef. And alternatively as well, if you're actually not very conversant with using this, these are very, very good. They're very handy in the kitchen. Remember, if you're not very fond of making your own stock, especially when cooking, your stock cubes really, really do a good job. So these are very, very cheap, and they're actually the best. They're actually more recommended than using all the commercial spices you have on your shelves. So particularly the good thing about beef cubes or chicken cubes or stock cubes for that matter, first of all, they actually save you quite a bit of cost, and second of all, they carry a very, very good amount of flavor and nutrient. So I recommend, if you do have time, do stop by into one of your regular outlets and pick up few. And these are particularly very, very good, especially when you're making stews. Right, so I'm just going to turn my heat a little lower, and we're just going to cover that, and we're just going to allow that to continue cooking. But in the meantime, I'm just going to bring your attention back to this side. Remember, we just mixed a bit of some parsley in there and a bit of some butter. I'm also going to add just a tiny bit of oil. And now we're basically going to go into the process of making some jacket potatoes. So very, very simple technique. You will require some foil, and you will be cooking this in the oven. So remember, this will not go into a pan. We're actually going to cook this in the oven covered. So I will start off by just getting about 2 sheets of some aluminium foil. And very simply, we'll just grab our potatoes, and just to help us cook them a little faster, this is a particular technique I like to use on most occasions. I like to use a small knife, and I just put a few incisions to the potato, and this will basically allow the juices to flow and really cook in there, and really allow the potato to actually sweat out really nicely inside your aluminium. So I'm just going to do the same thing with the other piece. So basically what you want to do is just give your potato enough incisions to actually allow you to, first of all, get that parsley and butter to be absorbed with the potato, and second of all, for the potato to actually sweat out the liquid inside the potato, which will allow you to really cook them really well, giving you a very, very soft potato on the inside and a beautiful crispy crust on the outside. So just to that, we will add the potatoes into the bowl. And all you need to do at this stage is just give that a nice mixture, and be sure to be very generous with your parsley. Remember, you are making jacket potatoes, and you really want them to really infuse with flavor. So just give that a mix, and you can just let that sit aside for a few seconds. And next up, you're basically now going to start the assembly process of the jacket potato. So very, very simple. Just a pinch of salt, small pinch of salt. Then grab one of your potatoes, place that right on top. Scoop up some of that bit of parsley that's still left over in your bowl. Please don't waste it. So easy as that. And what you want to do now is just start rolling up the potato. So remember, particularly if you're going to be doing jacket potatoes, very handy that you actually understand the technique of how it's done. So I particularly like to do it this way. All I do is lift my foil up, and then just start squeezing it around and just be able to cover at least a good amount of the potato. And all you do is take the excess and just fold that right to the top, and it's as easy as that. And we'll do the same thing with the second one. So just a little bit of salt, tiny bit of oil, and just add your potato there and scoop up all the parsley that you have left off in the bowl with that little bit of butter. Just scoop that all on top of your potato like that. And we're going to just do the same thing. Just lift it up, use your hand to go around the potato, and then just crumble the top and just allow those to sit for a little bit. So remember, these are going to be going into a hot oven, so we're basically just going to move those to a non-stick stainless steel baking sheet. But you can actually use any oven-proof dish that you have, or you can actually just throw this even in a barbecue. Remember, this particular technique is beautiful because, first of all, the aluminum foil seals all the flavor and all the ingredients in there, which actually gives you a very, very beautiful potato at the end. And second of all, it actually helps you to kind of rush the process of cooking. So 2 techniques to make your jacket potatoes, as I mentioned. You could alternatively put this in your oven, or you can actually just lay them on the side of your charcoal, maybe in your grill when you're doing your barbecue over the weekend, and they will actually cook really, really well. So we're just going to give those a few seconds and just come back to our stew. Right, so we're now getting a beautiful fragrance coming through, and it's now starting to really come together. But remember, the particular essence of making a beautiful stew is always allowing it to cook for as long as you can. And basically, that is basically where you build all the flavor. So that's a little dry now. It's the liquid has all been absorbed. So we're just going to add a 2nd cup of water. So we're going to add about half of that. Just give it a mix once more. And then to finish that off, just grab your already cooked peas. Just add those to your bowl there. Give it another mix through. And all you need to do now is just cover that. Leave that going at low temperature and just allow it to cook through. And just regularly keep checking on it and stirring it. This should actually just aid you to get a very, very beautiful stew out of that. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and I'm going to throw this in the oven really quickly. And when we do come back, I will show you some of the potatoes that we had done earlier in the show, and we'll just basically take them out, and I'll be able to show you what those look like when they're finally cooked. And I'll also give you some pointers on just some last bit of additions and some alterations that you can give to this particular dish. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We took a short commercial break, and now we're just about done and ready to are now ready to show you what we've been doing. So for those of you who are just catching up, if you missed the earlier parts of the show, we were actually doing a very, very simple mutton stew, which is now ready. I'm just going to turn off the heat. So we were doing a mutton stew earlier, and as I explained, we were working with some beautiful meat that's actually coming from the side, actually the hip bone of a goat. And now this is already done, so we're just going to allow that to sit for a little bit. But I'll also divert your attention to this side. Remember, we also had some jacket potatoes that were on the go, so we're just going to pull these out. Right. So I'm just going to quickly grab a plate, pair of tongs, and what we're going to do is just transfer the potatoes to the plate and allow them to start to cool off. and of course get the hot pan out of the way. Right, so simple as that. We're just going to start off with our potatoes, and all we're going to do is just open them up slightly over the top. So this is just going to allow them to cool off a little faster. We can set those aside for a few seconds. Now what we're going to also do, remember we also had a grilled tomato that we were to serve with this dish, so I'll just grab a fresh pan. And this particularly is a very, very simple dish, or a very, very simple accompaniment to a meat stew or something as dry as a potato. And it's actually something that it probably also works the same way as a breakfast item as it would as a cider. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So very, very simply, you're going to start off by taking the root tip and the bottom ends off. And what you're going to do with your knife now is basically cut your tomato in half. And what we're going to do now is we're going to lightly season this. So I'm just going to transfer these into a bowl. So very, very simply, just a bit of salt, a bit of some olive oil, and some freshly ground black peppercorns. Simple as that. And to that we're just going to add a few sprigs of rosemary. So I'm just going to pinch those off the stem. Right, so I'm using about 1 tablespoon of fresh rosemary. Right, so one particular thing I'll also share with you is the stalk of the rosemary is actually very, very handy as well. So I always insist, please don't throw it away. You can always incorporate it in your food, but always remember to pull it out just before serving, because it actually isn't able, you might not be able to chew it. So very simply, all you need to do is just mix up everything in your bowl. And next off, we'll start off by just moving our sprig of rosemary into the pan and our tomatoes as well. So basically what you're looking for is just a grill, just to put a bit of grilling onto the tomato. So you're basically going to be cooking each side for just under a minute. Remember, your pan is nice and hot, so all you're looking for is just to get some char marks onto the tomatoes, and this can come out of the pan immediately after that. So very, very simply, just wiggle your pan around. That basically allows you also to use as much of the hot surface of the pan as you can. And to that, remember, as I said, just under a minute, and just give them a turn. And then just continue to wiggle your pan around. It should actually give you a bit of a flame. Right, so just using your tongs, just lift and check on the other side, and it's almost done. So we're just going to allow those to continue grilling on some low heat. So very, very simple. We're just going to start off by, I'm just going to start off by explaining the containers in front of us today. Remember, I'm using some lock and lock containers. For those of you who haven't been with us in the previous episodes, remember we are doing a segment on some beautiful, easy and cost-effective lunch boxes that you can actually be able to make for you or your kids. So I'll start off with this one. So this is very, very simple, comes with a 4-lock design. And what happens is once you open this up, you realize that you actually get much more to the container. You do get the container in general, but you also get these beautiful small inserts that allow you to actually portion out your food. So this particular size, this would be one that I would use for kids maybe under the age of 7. And I also have one big one here that comes with the same kind of inserts, and this I'll probably use to serve an adult portion. Right, so we're just going to turn and check our tomatoes again, and those are nicely grilled. So we're just going to turn off the heat, and just simple technique. Start off by always pulling out your inserts. Remember, it's also handy that you keep your container clean. So I always start off by pulling out my inserts, and I'm gonna start off on the sides here with a bit of that beautiful goat stew. So I'm just going to portion that into one of the compartments and just share off the other half into the other one. Right, so simple as that. And something also to remember, these are particularly designed to take only as much as you can fill up to the top. And particularly they're also portioned because these actually come recommended by nutritionists. So remember, each particular portion that you get is actually designed just for that. But because we actually had a bit more, you can always pour a bit of the excess onto the other side and just save up on space. So we'll just slide that in there. And now to the other one, I'm just going to move my tomatoes in there. Simple as that. And just to finish that off, our beautiful jacket potato. So we're just going to move this onto the board. Right, so as you can be able to see, a very, very beautifully cooked potato. I'm just going to slice that through and you can be able to see the inside as well. So as you can see, it's got a nice, beautifully cooked center. It's nice and moist. So basically what I would do is basically just cut one piece into two like that. And that would easily go into your takeaway box like that. And basically all you're left to do now is always allow a bit of time for that to cool off and then basically pack it, and that should be ready for you to take with you to work. So I have definitely had some fun with you today, and I hope you've actually managed to grasp something off the show that you can be able to incorporate in your own home kitchen. And I hope at the end of it all, you are actually going to be able to beat that stigma and that little problem that we're all having in this particular January season of, first of all, cost, and second of all, nutrition. So it has been a pleasure being with you today. My name is Chef Andy. You have been watching BrandPlus TV. You have been tuned in to Lunch Guide. That's the name of the show. I will also remind you that we are also on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. Check out our videos. Leave your comments, your inquiries, or anything that particularly pertains to this show, and we'll be definitely looking forward to getting back to you. So from my end, I'm going to wish you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, a beautiful month, and until the next episode, have a lovely lunch today. See you soon.